Hello, it's Rebecca Mara, and I am an intuitive healer, a spiritual coach, and a body worker. And I wanted to talk to you today about healing wounding by using the divine feminine, divine masculine archetypes. Our childhood wounding tends to repeat itself into our adulthood over and over again, whether we're conscious of it or not. Almost every wound that I've found in a client I can trace back to their childhood somewhere. When we're growing up, just like us, our parents aren't perfect. And because of that, they will inherently wound us, and we'll wound them as well. It's part of being human. We're imperfect. So, in order to heal those wounds, we have to do it within ourselves by bringing the divine light and divine love, whether holding masculine or feminine polarity, into the center of our own being, bringing the light and love to meet that wound to give it a true healing. Otherwise, we'll be repeating those wounds within our relationships over and over again. That's what would cause us to blame another person for not meeting a need or for hurting us, or it would cause us to expect someone to be perfect for us in order to love them or trust them. However, as long as you're putting your power outside of yourself, externally, and giving it to another person, that person is always going to disappoint you from time to time until you've healed that wound within yourself. Once that part of you is loved, there's no way that that person can hurt you or that another person can hurt you, because there is no wound there anymore. There's just love and compassion and understanding as we all hold every piece of ourselves in each other. We are always an eternal mirror. It's sort of like as within, so without. If I have a wound in here, I'll see it externally. And I'll keep creating it until I decide to finally have a come to Jesus moment and bring it to that divine fire in order to be healed and loved once and for all. If we protect ourselves from working with this wound or seeing or feeling this wound, we will never be able to heal, and we'll have to either build a wall which cuts us off from being able to live life more fully, or we will perpetuate that wound over and over again. So what I'm inviting you to do is to use the divine masculine and or feminine in order to heal your deepest wounds. It shouldn't be too hard to identify what some of those greatest wounds are. Maybe it has to do with trust or betrayal or self-worth or having a voice. These tend to be really common themes that show up for everyone. First, it's important to identify what that wound is and what part of you doesn't feel loved. Sometimes you can start with doing mirror work. I like to look in the mirror for at least a half hour every day while I meditate, and I bring love to the parts of me that look afraid to experience it, or I bring trust and safety to parts of my being that aren't familiar with it. This is how we start to heal with the divine energy, and then we bring it within us so that we don't need to get it externally. So as we bring love to that energy, as we bring care for that energy, we allow ourselves to receive that energy, then we start to heal those wounds once and for all. But there has to be a direct contact. So that healing can't happen from your mind, or it can't be conceptual. So if you're looking in the mirror and you're thinking about loving yourself, or you have your energy in one part of your proprioceptive awareness, which is what I like to do also, maybe I'll bring like divine masculine right here to be with me all day long. You have to first bring awareness to that area and start to feel it in your body as though that love was there, or that safety, or that feeling of peace or ground is there. So you can play with the feeling of divine peace or love, or a deep safety, or the divine mother, or the divine father. Wherever your wounding is, you want to use the divine for that. It can be your divine lover, the divine masculine, the divine feminine. But you have to bring the energy of that in, and you can't do that from your ego self, your separated self, or your mind. It has to be from your heart. It can't be just from this awareness up here. It has to have the heart included in order for you to actually transform and feel the change happening. So I'd like to just give you a few examples of things that I like to do. One thing, it's a little bit personal, but I really enjoy this. So right now my system doesn't want relationship. Right now it's rebuilding itself so that it's basically just rebuilding itself in order to be more anchored in its love. So I bring in divine masculine right here. So I have awareness. I become my own divine masculine, right side of the body, right? Right tends to be masculine, left tends to be feminine. So I bring that divine light up here so that my divine masculine is looking down on my divine feminine, and it doesn't want anything. It's just a experience of love and support and always being there and being there to witness my feminine. And in that light, when I have this awareness right here of this loving presence witnessing me, I happen to feel my feminine melt. It gets to sigh in relief, it gets to soften, it gets to trust, it gets to receive. She gets to just be the beautiful, graceful being that she is, and it being really simple and healthy and normal. That's how I'm retraining my system to receive love. Because I don't need that divine masculine or the masculine to show up a certain way outside of me, I'm already cultivating it within. And when the right being shows up for me to practice that with, which I'm in no rush for, because I understand how important it is to get it internally. When that being does come along that can hold the same energy I've already been cultivating, we'll both identify it, and then it's a free love. It's not, can you give me this, can I give you that? It's actually a free love, a non-attached love, which is true love. So it's close, it can be consistent and steady and committed, but there's freedom in it in that it doesn't want to make the other person be something else. So that's more of a relational experience of how I work with the divine feminine and divine masculine. I also work with, I would say more of my wounding is with my mother. And so I work with bringing in the divine mother and imagining that her arms are around me and holding me all day. Little side note, sometimes I bring in feminine here, divine masculine here, and I feel both of their hands on my back all day. And then my system just softens and it relaxes. Your brain and your nervous system don't know the difference between energy or a visualization and something that's really happening, obviously, since it plays all these programs that aren't even real or aren't even what's happening. So this is learning how to work with energy in order to shift the way that your brain and your nervous system respond to things. So Divine Mother really is one of my favorites. I can feel her softness and her grace and her peace, and I can feel her just holding me, and then that little girl in me starts to feel safe, and her system softens, and she starts to relax, and I start to become what I am receiving. So there's sort of this infinity loop that happens energetically when we retrain ourselves to receive from the divine feminine, divine masculine. You can even use an object if you want. I was in a session once and I heard Spirit say, go get a teddy bear. You need to practice loving this baby as though you're the divine mother and receiving as that baby, as that teddy bear. And I ran all the way to Target. I was so excited. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to learn how to be the divine feminine. I get to learn how to be a mother, and I get to learn how to be a healthy baby. And I practiced that for a little while. It was a good training because I got to see something outside of myself, even if it was just an object I was using to symbolize an energy. I got to see something outside of myself. And by loving that baby, I got to see what it was like to receive as the baby. So it ended up being this kind of infinity loop. And that's what you can do with your own divine masculine, divine feminine. You can call this a lot of time reparenting with the divine feminine and divine masculine. So if your wounding is with your father, you can just imagine and feel. So you're using your imagination to create something that you're not familiar with energetically. So you might have a visual, but it's way more important to feel it in your body as though it's really happening. So bring in what you feel the presence of that divine masculine would be And you might have to be creative. You might have to surrender to find that energy. You've got to get out of your own way in order to experience it. So you can bring in that Divine Father and let that Divine Father support you and see what it would be like to have that structure and that holding and that steadfastness and that loving support. Like, oh, here's how you create this. Here's the structure that you need in order to birth who you are, little child. So it doesn't matter what you're using, if you're using Divine Father, Divine Mother, Divine Lover of some male or female, but you can use these archetypes to start healing yourself. Some people just imagine a grandmother, like they'll tune into a grandmother that feels really safe. So it's up to you what makes you feel the happiest and what makes you feel the most safe. And then it feels really good to just imagine that they're right around you, or they're right here with you all day long, or right here with you all day long, or right behind you holding the back of your heart. I think that these are really sweet places to feel that. Another way that you can do it is feeling Gaia, like feeling the Divine Mother, that living, breathing, non-dual. There's no good and bad. There's just peace, and there's harmony and vibration and love, and giving birth to life over and over and over again through love, through peace. So in order to receive what we were wounded with, we have to also be able to give it to ourselves, to others. It ends up being as within, so without. It ends up being this really beautiful relationship where you become what it is that you're witnessing, and you become what it is that you're receiving. So I welcome you to do a practice of just picking one wound. It's the most obvious core wound. It's anything that still has an emotional charge around it, anything that still feels kind of sore, where you might have built a wall or a defense or some kind of structure to stop yourself from feeling pain. And we want to go right into that wound and bring love to it and bring care to it. We don't want to merge with the wound. We want to bring way more peace and presence and grace and kindness, compassion. If you start to kind of merge with the wound, make sure you pull yourself out of it and go back into your resource. And then you can contact the wound again and give it the love that it always wanted. It's so simple and one of the most powerful practices that you could do. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.